So Petro, you just visited Ukraine. You actually traveled through most of the country. You spent here over 2 weeks, and now it's your final stage here in Lviv. But before, you've been to quite a few places, I would say. So can you tell us where did you go in Ukraine before coming here?
I started from Odessa. From there, I went to Kyiv, and then I went to Pereslav for a motorbike festival, which
Pereyaslav.
Pereyaslav.
It's like in central Ukraine, yeah?
yeah, thanks to you. And from there, I went on a motorbike all the way to Izyum, and from Izyum, I went to Kramatorsk, spent a week there, back to Kyiv, and then from Kyiv to Zhytomyr, Vinnytsia, and now Lviv, and hopefully I'll go to the Carpathia.
That's impressive. I must say that you visited much more of the country than a regular traveler would do, and especially you were brave enough to visit Ukraine during the warring period. So basically you entered from the south, you went north, then you did east, and now you are here in the west before continuing onwards to Western Europe, right? So we are going to talk here about like a experience from a solo woman who did her own trip in Ukraine during the war, which is an insane idea for most people, right? But you made it. What made you come here, first of all? And were not you afraid, for example?
The truth is I was in the neighborhood, so I came to Ukraine with zero expectations and actually never expecting to go so far east. But once I was here, I realized everything's not as the media perceives. I am able to do it. It's also not my first country I've traveled to during the war, so I didn't have that fear that most people would have. In saying that, there is still, I did see the war. I did see the missiles, the rockets. I saw the damage. I heard the stories, and that is upsetting to experience, but we'll get into that later.
So can you tell us in more details what was your perception of Ukraine before some nuns just passed by and people are walking around? You can see it's more lively. Tram just passed. So when people see this picture, they would not imagine this can be now in Ukraine because how media presents it all. What was your perception of Ukraine before actually coming here?
I have seen some of the videos that it is lively and people going out and having a good time, and that's one thing I've realized the first time I went to Iraq, that I saw people out having dinner, and that was the point where I was even in the midst of war, life has to go on. It's not going to stop, and it's been more than a year now, nearly 2 years since this war's been going on, so you can't really expect people to be hiding away in their homes. They also need to live and want a reason to live.
So how did you cross the border? Because when people try to cross the border into the warring state, they expect some angry policemen, military staff questioning them where they are going or so. How was your experience entering Ukraine?
It was so easy. It took about 15 minutes. I took the bus from Chisinau, and that was 4 to 5 hours going there. I even had a big camera around my neck, and the customs and border official, he didn't even say anything to me. He was just
welcome to Ukraine, right?
Yeah.
And you did Odessa. So Odessa, it's been a target pretty in the heavy artillery or even long-range missile attacks recently. How was Odessa? What have you seen there? What did you encounter?
I noticed that there are tourists. I suspected
tourists?
Yeah.
Okay.
People tried to sell me tours, and they were selling other people tours, so you'd see little red vans going around, and it was lively. It was very similar to the vibe that I'm experiencing in Lviv. And that was also when I realized people want to go to the beach. They want to see the sea and enjoy that, and it's the end of summer or nearing winter, so they were soaking up the last bit of warmth.
Okay. Odessa is the main port of Ukraine, and because of the grain blockade and so on, the entire port area was heavily attacked in recent months. Did you see any physical evidences of war there?
Yes. Within my first 30 minutes of being there. The driver I had, he spoke really well English, so as he was driving me to my accommodation, he would point at different places that's been hit, and some was as recent as a week ago, including his wife's office, and he showed me that. So it is a frequent occurrence there, and even a couple of days after I'd walked near the port area, Hotel Odessa got struck.
The main, iconic place in Odessa, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, and I tried to go to Potemkin Stairs because it's one of the biggest sites within Odessa, and that's completely cordoned off. They don't. There's everywhere. There's signs, no photos, no pictures, because they obviously don't want. It's a strategic military point, and these photos can't get out for obvious reasons.
Did you feel in danger anytime in Odessa?
No. I
But
think
you heard the explosions in the city while staying there?
not in Odessa.
So where did you hear explosions?
Kramatorsk.
In Kramatorsk. Okay, like before, Kramatorsk is like, it's a frontier area, right?
Yeah.
So what happened after Odessa?
From Odessa, I went to Kyiv, and then we got in touch. And you had connected me with one of your friends, who I went to a motorbike festival with. And
Motorbike festival?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just something you do.
How did you travel there?
So that was quite hard to get to from Kyiv, because I think there's one direct bus, but the timing was inconvenient.
From Kyiv there, but
Yeah.
to Kyiv from Odessa, how did you go?
Train, overnight train.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like my go-to now when I'm traveling.
Yeah, trains are very convenient to travel around Ukraine. There is an app which is working, everything works fine. So
Roist,
yeah.
super easy.
Okay, so how was the festival?
That was amazing. I was like, when I was like, first time I was introduced to like the true spirit of Ukrainians and the hospitality and welcome nature and everything. It was a mix between bikers and army, and everyone just kept bringing me like borscht and food and all kinds of different alcohol, and like that cherry famous vodka, that one. So that was just an absolutely amazing night, and I'm so grateful for that experience.
Okay. And there you met guys and you continued with them to the east, right? With my friends, bikers.
Yeah, Oleg and Bogdan. So I rode on the back of the bike with them, stayed at their house in Izyum.
In Izyum.
Yeah.
So we are talking about the place which was actually under occupation. You know, Izyum was occupied for over half a year, and the counteroffensive which liberated the city was one of the biggest successes of Ukrainian armed forces on the ground. How is Izyum now?
It's very sad. I cried. I mean, if you look online, it will tell you that 80% of the city is destroyed. I mean, I stayed with people from there who stayed there during the whole occupation, so they shared their personal testimonies with me, using mostly like a translator app. I noticed how everyone was still happy and smiling, and like she took care of me like my own mother would, and that was just something really special to me. But I pointed out to her about like, it's so nice to still see you smile, and she told me that during the occupation I forgot how to smile. I lost a ton of weight, and it was only once we were liberated from Russia that I could finally smile again.
Wow.
And that was something really powerful.
So you visited Russia 1 year before, right?
Yeah, I did.
Like, you probably had some ideas what situation is in Ukraine. Did it change somehow after you visited Ukraine, actually?
I don't think so. Like, I understand, like I have experienced war before, but maybe I feel some guilt over going to Russia, I have to say, for that. Just, it's like I'm grateful I went to Russia because that's where I started to learn Russian. And I think that has had a big impact on how I have been able to communicate with Ukrainians. Like, even though they don't want to speak Russian, they still can, and they will correct me and teach me Ukrainian words, and that has really, I think, brought a closer connection with Ukrainians, knowing the language.
Yeah, sure. All right, so what happened afterwards? Like, I remember you were taking my advice how to travel, and then I thought if you're really adventurous, you can go this road, which was also liberated recently, and which will take you along the frontier, visiting Kramatorsk, actually, right?
Yeah.
So how was that road? How did you manage to get around there? Because those are like pretty no-go zones for many people.
The bus station in Izyum is destroyed, but it's operating, and you can even find the bus schedule on infobus.eu. And I just looked at the times. I showed it to Oleg, and they were like, okay, drop me off at the bus station. Stayed until the very last moment until I left. And I was seated next to a guy that was in the army. He had an injury on his leg, but I was kind of distracted because he was showing me video clips the whole time of him like firing like rockets and things like that. So I wasn't paying that much attention outside, but it is like you can see nature overtaking. There'll be abandoned tanks, I even saw sunflower fields, so I don't know if it's from this season or the previous season, but there is definitely some agriculture happening. And yeah, it's not that far. It's like less than 2 hours from Izyum to Kramatorsk. I happen to have a friend there in Kramatorsk who I connected with, and he's volunteering with an NGO. So I ended up there as well, helping them out a little bit with filming for the week. And hopefully I'll go back to help them further.
So Kramatorsk is the largest city in Donbas, which remains under Ukrainian control, and it now serves as the one huge military base. Yeah, probably like the soldiers constitute majority population there now.
It was like a 50-50, I'd say, with the population. Like I came across a lot of people who went in the military. A lot of people have decided to remain and aren't leaving. I felt comfortable in that environment, strangely. I was in the military for 8 years, so I've personally lived on a military base, so it kind of felt like home in a weird way. We had a lady rock up. She lives very close to the train line, so her house and the houses there, a lot of people have left, but she's decided to stay. And the day before I left, her house had been hit by shelling, so we were
Her house?
Yes.
Like the block, not the private house?
Her private house. Yeah, and there was 3 giant holes in her roof.
Oh.
So we were getting her a ladder so she can fix that, and my friend Pierre, who's there, he also went around to help her fix her roof. Winter's here and it's going to get cold.
Yeah, so you told that in Kramatorsk you experienced rocket attacks.
Yeah.
How was it?
Like I'd say I've probably seen more than 100 missiles flying at night.
More than 100 flying over the city.
Well, like you can see it in the distance because it's only 30 kilometers from the front line. So you hear sometimes for hours in the morning. Yeah, so every night I guess like me and Pierre would sit outside drinking a glass of wine while we're watching a fireworks show, if you want to call it.
Even though it's a dry area, right?
Oh, I should
You're
not
have
not supposed to.
For private consumption, maybe.
Maybe edit that out. Yeah, I had brought a couple of bottles of wine.
Okay, you smuggled wine into the military zone. All right, and so theoretically one of those missiles could fall in your vicinity where you were, right?
Yeah, that's the very real reality. One morning I woke up at 5 o'clock to a big explosion, and my first thought was that where we're staying, our base has been hit. But luckily it was just the boiler, so no more hot water for the remainder of my stay, but I'd take that any day over.
Wow.
Like the reality many people face.
Yeah, and from there you were heading your way west, which is more civil, more like this. Yeah, so I recommend maybe you have a short walk around the city, because here, like you see, more people are passing by, and we just maybe explore a little bit of Lviv, right? Let's go?
Yeah, let's go.
So we met with you in Kyiv, in the capital of Ukraine.
Yeah.
You know, Kyiv is a big city, it's bustling, has towers, much more busy in some areas even than here, I would say, in Lviv. What was your experience there?
Kyiv, I met a few people. I stayed at a dream hostel, which is really good to network with other people from here. So I met people from Donetsk and other occupied cities from Russia who have obviously left. They no longer have any communication with their family members because they are pro-Russian, but they are so proud to be Ukrainian, and that was really nice to see people and sharing their stories.
Could you just tell, let's say, one story?
Okay, I went to Bucha and Irpin, and on the way back, I decided to just go up to some random guys, and I'm like, can you guys give me a lift back to Kyiv? And they agreed, so I hitchhiked with them back to the city, and that guy told me he's from Donetsk, and he's I'm trying to think. So yeah, he told me he's from Donetsk and that he has zero communication with his family. And like, it's sad to hear that this is actually tearing families apart in this situation. I can't imagine ever, like, over any disagreements that I may have with my family, which I do have, because I'm a much more like liberal or libertarian than what they are. There's a tractor coming.
There's a tractor going through the center of the city. In the meantime, you can see people just having good time, having coffee.
Yeah.
Petro's in the middle of this, I would rather say, a peaceful atmosphere. But guys, there is a reminder, for example, that this one of the main cathedrals in the city, you can see, is protected from the possible explosions or attacks. And this actually started like in the early days of war. I have a video how we should protect our UNESCO heritage, because Lviv is a part of this world heritage, but yeah, it's still like this. Another example would be the following. Take a look over there. There was a statue of Jesus Christ on the top, but it was removed just in case to be protected. Thankfully, Lviv was not hit hard during the war, so basically in this year there were 2 or 3 attacks only. I have one of the videos about how life is happening in the city during the attack, so make sure to take a look, to feel the atmosphere. How does it feel like actually when there is some attack happening? So we were just talking by with Petro, and I see a familiar face passing by. This is Vitalik. Vitalik, hello.
Hi.
Vitalik is actually a reporter in Ukraine who did an amazing research job in the liberated areas in the east. You are part of Ukrainian team, which is one of the, I would say, the coolest communities who really stand for Ukrainian ideas, principles, and spreading the message from Ukraine to the world. So Vitalik, can you tell us a bit more about your project, Hero Cities, or how do you call it, Liberation and so on, yeah?
I think you might mean the occupation.
The occupation,
The occupation is a project run by Ukrainer. We started this project in April 2022, and we started expeditions to liberated areas. First it was north of Ukraine, Kyiv Oblast, Chernihiv Oblast, Sumy Oblast, and our team, including Bogdan Logunenko, Ukrainian writer, went to the occupied cities, villages, and the team interviewed civilians who stayed under occupation, who resisted Russians. Also, team interviewed soldiers, and now we continue this project. It's more difficult because this year we do not have a big counterattack run by Ukrainian army, but still we have some success in the south, in the east, and we also travel. We interview soldiers who are fighting on the front lines, and we talk to them about how they succeed, how they liberate villages, how they move on and move on. So we continue, and we hope for more. Like, we're sure that Ukrainian army would finally get more and more success, and we prepare for new stories and new liberated areas, something like this.
I must say that you are making an amazing job, and your project, The Occupation, even won some awards in Ukraine, right? As I understand, like the documentary, the journalist awards. So guys, I'm going to link to this, to Ukrainian, and the following materials next to this video if you want to have an in-depth understanding of the occupied areas and even what's happening now on the front line. I mean, these are the go-to guys in terms of this information. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Wish you all the best. Slava Ukraini, and see you somewhere in the world, right?
See.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Well, that was a nice meeting, and this is the beauty of Lviv, actually, because it's so dense, so packed. You can see your friends basically anytime, and even if I want to go somewhere for a drink or just socialize, I just go in this area, and usually I meet someone familiar. So that's the beauty of the city. So then you did, after Kyiv, you did Zhytomyr and Vinnytsia. Those are like smaller towns in central Ukraine. What can you tell about those?
Zhytomyr is quite small. I was there for one day, and then in Vinnytsia I met your friend, Yaro. And there he did show me where attacks has happened. I think he told me there's been 4 rockets that hit the city, and it wasn't actually something I expected, because to me it feels so far removed from Russia, and it's such a much smaller city. But I also saw protests for people because there's still a lot of prisoners of war. So I guess they have family members that are still being held as a prisoner, and they were trying to bring attention to it, but it's quite small.
Yeah, guys, now there is no people in Ukraine who got not affected by this war. Basically, everyone in Ukraine has at least a person who know a person who died or who got wounded or somehow in another way suffered of the war. And here in Lviv, people are kind of lucky a little bit because obviously geographically we are all the way in the west. It's a regular working day. It's not even a weekend at the moment, but still such reminders as the protected monument or some sandbags. This is our city council with a bell tower, like a regular medieval structure of a Central European city. So Petro, how do you feel in Lviv?
I feel fine. It's been a great time. I think Ukraine is an amazing place with, honestly, some wonderful people here, which I feel very lucky and privileged to have gotten to know. So I'm very happy to have spent as much time, actually more time than I originally planned in Ukraine. Highly recommend visiting.
The unique about your story is that you are a single woman traveling in Ukraine. So did it affect your travel experience here somehow? Did you ever felt in danger or not safe or like this?
In regards to the usual things that solo female travelers might be scared of?
Yeah.
No, I never had that feeling. Everyone's always been very kind, very giving with their time. I've barely been by myself or alone since I've been here because I'm always just passed on to the next friend or the next friend, and that's been wonderful. And I would, apart from curfew, even when I'm out late at night or early in the morning, like coming back from a train ride, I've never felt like anyone's gonna steal anything of me or harm me. And I feel safer here than I do in my home country, South Africa.
Really? That's the point, yeah? There is zero street crime in Ukraine, right?
Yeah.
The only difference, and you could be hit by the missile, but the probability of this is that low that, let's say, God forbid, but if it happens, you have a fast track to the heaven, basically.
Yeah.
This is all the dark humor we develop in Ukraine because of these conditions.
Yeah. No, it's definitely. I have this motto, faith over fear. So wherever I go, I just live by faith. I don't ever feel scared. And I've noticed the times I do feel scared or anxious over something, that's when things go wrong.
By the way, we just approached the Pianowation like a drunk cherry. This is the one you mentioned. So let's have a drink?
Yeah, let's do it.
Go for it.
I have 500s. It's kind of my problem. I'm trying to break them.
Okay.
Tut?
Cheers. Budьмо, we tell in Ukraine. Budьмо.
Budvo.
So what would be your message as a resume of your experience here to all the foreigners who are considering visiting Ukraine at the moment?
What do I think about people coming here? I would definitely recommend it. Probably don't go as far east as I did unless you have a good reason or you're going to volunteer, which you're more than welcome to do. And if it is something you're interested in, I would highly recommend that because there are no international large organizations with any presence there. It is all locally small Ukrainian run with very little funding. And I do suggest to support them instead of the larger organizations.
Anything else you want to share?
Yeah, as far as visiting Kyiv, Lviv, Odessa, I think you can come here without any worries or concerns. You will have an absolutely amazing time and you'll get to meet some amazing people.
Sounds great. It's a privilege to host you here. Thanks for coming, guys. And just for you to know, you're welcome in Ukraine.
Yeah, thank you.